Hi everybody, this is Meg from Permacoach, and today I wanted to talk to you about starting plants from seed, because it's that time of year. I mean, you can be starting plants from seed any time of year, but this time of year particularly, we're getting ready for spring, when we get lots and lots of growth, and it's a real opportunity to get some new things into the garden. And the first thing I wanted to do was to talk about the difference between seed raising mix and ordinary potting mix. So seed raising mix has actually got a lot less compost and a lot less nutrients in it, and the reason for that is if it's too high in nutrient, your seeds are going to rot. But the reason you need to know that is that it's really only for getting seeds started, and once they're up and out of the seed raising mix, you will either need to give them some kind of a liquid feed, or you'll need to transplant them straight into your beautiful topsoil, or you'll need to pot them up so that they're in some good rich potting mix. So keep in mind, it's worth buying seed raising mix to raise seedlings. Some people mix up their own. I've found that generally speaking, the materials I need to buy to mix up my own are only going to use up more plastic anyway, so I do recycle the plastic. So why raise things from seed? Okay, there's a couple of reasons for that. It's a lot cheaper to raise things from seed. You usually have more than you need and you can share them with other people. And seed raised in your own climate is obviously going to suffer a lot less transplant shock than something that's been sitting in a nursery or a hardware store. The other thing about the punnets that you buy with plants already in them is sometimes they're not in very good condition. They've been sitting there a while and they're a bit root bound. And of course, I'm saving plastic, so I've been using these punnets for a number of years, and you can see I've got them in a couple of different sizes that I've hung on to. The larger ones are great if I want to grow up plants like these are great for pumpkins or any of the climbing gourds. And my other tip is read the instructions on the packet. So the people who make seed packets and who distribute seeds give you all kinds of really great information about when things should be sown and how much water they will need, but in particular you'll see this says sow direct. And that's really important information. What that means is that these seeds, which are beetroot, will do much better sown directly in the ground. So there's a couple of general rules here if you've seeds saved from last year. Root vegetables will generally do much better if you put them directly into the ground. Legumes are the same. Legumes will usually say sow direct. And that's what this one says, so autumn and winter direct in rows. So see, this one's saying autumn and winter, so these are going to have to wait until next year. You really can, with climate change and the weather being all over the place, if you want to take a punt and try growing something out of season, I've actually had some great results doing that. My advice would be just take a couple of seeds out of the packet. So one of the great things about Green Patch is that these seeds actually come in a resealable envelope, which is terrific. You can open it up and close it again. So here's another example of, so most flowers will do much better in a punnet, and you can see that this one will say that the best thing to do is to sow it into sow direct or into seedling trays, so you've got a choice with this one. Some things will be very specific that they want you to put it into seedling pots, and see, this one will actually say, so this is tomatillo, this one will say into seedling pots, liquid feed once germinated, and that's again because the potting mix is not going to be very good quality. But there's also a whole heap of other information. I like to keep the seed packets, so I do love diggers, but the problem with the diggers packets is when you open them you generally damage them, and they're not easy to hang on to, whereas these become a really great reference so that when your plant comes up you can come and check on how it's going. So generally speaking, things like pumpkins and gourds in general are much happier if they're sown direct, but you can raise them. This says sow directly into garden beds, but you can raise them in punnets, but if you do, I'd recommend using these much larger punnets or little individual pots. They're going to outgrow something like that really, really quickly. And then here's another one. This is onions, which also gives you the choice of sowing direct or into a seedling tray. So one of the reasons we sow things into punnets is because the seedlings are fragile, and the other reason is because we can control the temperature. So this time of year, if you want to give your tomatoes a head start, tomatoes actually need a nice warm soil to grow well. So we can start raising them on in punnets, we can pot them up, and then as soon as the soil's warm enough, we can put them out and we've got a head start. The other little tip I wanted to show you was something I picked up from Pip magazine, which is that if you've pruned anything back, you can actually use these to make your own little plant tags. So here's an example of a plant tag, and I've just used a vegetable peeler to peel back the bark, and then you can use a permanent marker to write on it. And I would advise turning the cuttings upside down. So in other words, the top of the cutting is going into the plant, because you probably don't want it taking root in your seedling tray. But isn't that a neat idea? And then next year, if you want to, you can just shave that one off with a vegetable peeler and make yourself another one. Just change or just reuse the tag and grow the same plant. Alright, that's all for now, and I'll be back later to show you how I create an artificial warm environment for my seeds.